everybody. I'm Melissa from Untitled Astrology. Today we're going to talk about the astrology of September 28th through October 4th. We have a couple interesting things to talk about in the middle of the week, especially following up on the heels of the solar eclipse in the sign of Virgo that we're just coming off of. So we're going to get into all of that. Before we do, I want to just give you a reminder to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done that. If you go ahead and subscribe, you won't miss these weekly videos that come out every Saturday, nor will you miss the live meditations that we host here Sunday nights 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So every Sunday night I host a live astrological meditation where we meditate on the energies for the upcoming week. We talk about the major aspects. We might look at little different perspectives and ways that we can lean into the energies that are around us, and really we create a space where we can come into a space of calmness, maybe come into a space of silence if that's what works for us, and create relationships, create connections with the astrology and the energies that are around us. Contemplate and think about how they may be playing out in your lives, thinking about how we can cultivate relationships, how we can build a closer connection with these aspects in the astrology and just the overall energies that are mirroring from the sky down to earth here. So yeah, invite to subscribe and invite to join us for our live meditation. So I will see you there. If you subscribe and follow, like, whatever on social media, so Facebook, Instagram, then you won't miss any updates or any posts that we have there, any news or announcements, all of that goes there, as well as the weekly intentions that are released on Fridays. So the weekly video comes out ahead of the meditation that's on Sunday. Ahead of the weekly video that comes out Saturday, we have the weekly intention, and that is completely guided by the astrology of the upcoming week here too. So between Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, really looking to set you up with many ways that you can look at what's going on, contemplate how it's playing out in your lives, have conversations with the energies, and really just cultivate a strong connection and awareness with what's going on. So yeah, reminders, invitations to like, follow, subscribe on all of the places, and thank you for giving me the time to go ahead and say that first. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get right into this week here. We're going to start out the first couple days by following the moon around here. So we start out on Sunday with the moon in the sign of Sagittarius, where it's going to make a square to the nodes, and that Sagittarius moon is going to take us right into Monday, September 29th. The moon will move into the sign of Capricorn at, I have 5:55 a.m. Eastern Time, and it makes a couple other aspects as well as coming into the first quarter moon phase that we have here. And then that Capricorn moon is going to take us right into Tuesday, September 30th here. Still no major aspects, starting out kind of slow. The aspects that we're talking about this week here, they're going to be starting to build. So you can think of them as slowly getting stronger throughout this week here, especially within these first few days where we don't have any exact aspects going on. So if we go ahead and move forward into Wednesday, October 1st, this is where we get our first exact aspect of the week here. And we have a square between Jupiter in the sign of Cancer and Mercury in the sign of Libra. So this is our first major aspect that we're going to talk about here. So when you have Mercury in the sign of Libra, Mercury being the planet of our mind, thoughts, communications, the way we perceive things, the way others speak to us, the way we speak to others, and the way we conceptualize thoughts and ideas and opinions within our head, as well as tools and resources and things like that that come towards us. In the sign of Libra, that Mercury is very diplomatic. It wants fairness, it wants understanding, it has this desire to keep things moving smoothly and without disruption, or at least the appearance of so, right? Sometimes Libra can be a little bit about having the appearance of things being a status quo or being even keel, if it's not even that way necessarily under the radar. So there's a big social awareness, and there's a relational aspect to our mind, to the way we talk when Mercury is in the sign of Libra. Then we have Cancer, a Cancer Jupiter here that we're talking about, right? Jupiter's in its exaltation in the sign of Cancer. This is the place of the caregiver, the place of the nurturer. This is the place of birth. We have the ascendant of the Thema Mundi, which is the theoretical birth chart of the universe. It's the teaching component. It has Cancer on the ascendant. So you think of the ascendant being what's being birthed into the world, what is coming up, what is being birthed. Cancer. Cancer is the place of birth. You have the place of gestation and the place of the womb where things are able to grow and they're able to proliferate. You have the place where we came from, right? So you think of like the womb, the place that we all came from, we all grew inside of our mother, inside of a being. So there's the relation to the self and the ancestry, where we've come from, where we have come from as far as our own experiences related to, the subconscious mind and conditionings and our different life experiences that have all played into who we are now, as well as looking back into our ancestry as far as where we've came from, right? So lineage-wise, thinking about what has literally came before you, as well as what has come before you in this moment. So within this life and, maybe even expanding into past lives if you subscribe to that view here. So the diplomatic caregiver, right? When Jupiter and Mercury are coming together in these signs here. The nurturer who wants understanding, who wants fairness. There is proliferation, but there is a desire to keep things a little bit smooth. We have the air element, which has things being in the realm of ideas and thoughts and opinions and coming up with brainstorming different ideas and different ideals. It can be very rational and very, very mental, especially with Mercury there. Jupiter in the sign of Cancer is a water sign, so there's an emotional connection there. And if you think about the emotional body and the rational body, those two things don't always go well together, right? Like you think about your emotions and then you think about your mind, and sometimes they're at odds. Not always, hopefully, but they don't always. The mind and the heart don't always line up at the same place, right? Like the mind may know which way we should go, but the heart wants what the heart wants, kind of like that type of thing. We've all been in those situations, I'm assuming. So you have a square between these two signs. So there is a little bit of tension, there's a little bit of stress here between these two planets within this aspect. So the squares, they give us a challenge. They give us a place to grow from, a place to overcome from. So I'm wondering about overcoming with fairness in mind, overcoming some sort of obstacle by coming together and unifying. I think both of these signs can unify within their own ways. I'm thinking about the details as well as the big picture here. Okay, so Jupiter looks at the whole, looks at the expansion of things. When I think about the details and small little things, I think about Mercury. Libra, being an air sign, is able to detach itself and step back a little bit and look at a little bit of a bigger picture. With Mercury there, you have the details. So wondering about where the details are within the bigger picture. And again, these two things can kind of be at odds sometimes too here. Different obstacles that could come through here would be some sort of indecision, or the rational mind of trying to come together and trying to formulate thoughts and ideas and opinions being a little bit at odds, or like some sort of relational connection maybe being at odds with where we've come from. Maybe it's our beliefs, maybe it's our ancestry, maybe it's the family where we've come from. Maybe there's some sort of conditioning within our being here that is preventing us from that Libra and Mercury that wants things to be fair and balanced and just to be able to do so. So maybe there's something that we need to handle there. I'm wondering about an invitation to see another person's perspective here. So when we see another person's perspective and we can understand their feelings, understanding the surrounding of that idea or that emotion. The emotion can come from Jupiter in the sign of Cancer, where things are proliferating really, really quickly, and maybe our emotions are growing really fast. And then on the other hand, we have rational thoughts, feelings, and ideas with Mercury. Mercury can be very ambiguous and very, what exactly is the word that I'm looking for? Mercury, I feel like sometimes can be like a good outside view coming in, right? Like you look to third-party opinion to bring in a little bit of information of what's going on. Like maybe you go talk to your therapist because they are not involved with your life in any way. So you talk through the things that are going on because they don't have any stock in what's going on here. I'm not exactly sure what the word is that I'm looking here for, but there's this ability here and to have two different things at one time, the emotional bond as well as the mental rational sphere here. And then if they're at odds with each other, how can we overcome that? How can there be a challenge to see another person's perspective and know that they are able to have their own perspective while understanding their feelings, while understanding our feelings? Like, that can be a lot here at one time, right? Wanting to understand in a fair, balanced, just way while still honoring our own emotions and honoring their emotions. And that can be a little difficult sometimes when we have like ours and theirs at the same time, right? So this is our first major aspect that we have coming through here today. So this square and this challenge to rectify or to overcome here is on Wednesday is going to lead us right into our next aspect that we have on Thursday, October 2nd. Again, remember that these aspects are applying. So Venus is coming into a conjunction with the South Node on Thursday. That's when it's going to be exact. But it's coming in through the applying aspect, which is where it's building towards it through the beginning of the week. So as Mercury and Jupiter are coming together here, we have Venus and the South Node coming together. Now, the South Node in the sign of Virgo, this is where we just had our eclipse, right? So Venus coming through this South Node and close right next to that eclipse point here, so closely to the eclipse, tells me that this is going to be related to the eclipse and to the eclipse cycles that we have. And maybe there's something within the eclipse cycle that is a little bit more Venusian than what we thought within the beginning here, right? That's a big possibility here as well. So let's go ahead and take a look at this and break down this aspect here a little bit. If we think about Venus, Venus represents love, joy, harmony, beauty, desire, friendship, relationships, all of the enjoyable things that we have within our lives, right? So the South Node is a point of release. The North Node are things that pull us towards. It is the metaphorical head of the dragon, where that just has an insatiable appetite to bring more and more and more in. This could bring us into the material world. This could bring us into, feeling that we are empowered and we are passionate about moving into something. The South Node, on the other hand, is the tail of the dragon, that it does not have a head, so it does not have the mental rational portion of it, but it is constantly releasing, right? So it's the tail that is always releasing versus the head that is always bringing in. When you don't have the two together, there's no idea of when to stop. We just keep going. We either just keep reaching towards the North Node, or we just keep releasing within the South Node. Ideally, finding a balance in between, right? Where we can move forward, release, let go, bring in, and kind of like a back and forth, more like the waves of a tide, or the tide coming into the beach and coming out of the beach, kind of like that a little bit. So if we're talking about Venus being related to the eclipse, Venus typically brings good things. I'm wondering about there being some sort of clarity or some sort of understanding or some sort of resolve related to the eclipse here. The eclipse has been, for a lot of people, this has been a very tense, serious eclipse series. The eclipses have had Saturn in aspect. I'm not going to dwell on that too much. If you want to go back and look at those old videos from the last couple weeks, you can do that. But if this has been difficult, and if there has been some sort of release or some sort of letting go or something that is coming forward that has occurred, maybe Venus here on the South Node can soften that in one way, or just allow us to release with the understanding that what is completing is that current version, right? Saturn with that eclipse, like I said, with the eclipses, has been hard for a lot of people. Not everybody. For some, it's been very foundational, very structural. So if that's the case, then maybe Venus is going to amplify that here a little bit. There is feminine support with Venus and this providing feminine sign, right? It's a feminine sign. Venus is a feminine planet. So there's service, there's resource, and there's preparation here. However, on the shadow side, it could seem hyper-focused. It could seem critical or insensitive to the situation that is hand. Those are shadow aspects of Virgo. So the rational Earth doesn't always understand the emotional connection, right? Which often, where the South Node is, there is some sort of emotional connection, emotional release. We think of the South Node as things that are falling away, things that have completed their cycle or have completed their current form and their current path, and they're ready to move on to something else. We think about things that move us away from the material world. So this is where you get the idea of you know, maybe addictions coming with the South Node, or the spirituality that can come with the South Node. When we connect deeply to some sort of spirit or some sort of beliefs of some kind, no matter what they are, religious, spiritual, or whatnot, that when you connect deeply with that otherworldly energy, it pulls you away from your body. It pulls you towards the energetic body and the energetic field rather than that material, dense world that we live in here all the time. So I'm wondering what has been trying to release. Maybe Venus can kind of soften it here just a little bit. There's a mutual reception here between Venus and Mercury sign and Mercury and Venus's sign right now. So that's a little bit of a helpful bit for Venus. I do want to point out that Venus being in the sign of Virgo is in its fall. And that can be a little bit of a tense moment too, right? So Venus is in its exaltation in the sign of Pisces, the sign where Saturn is. So it's almost like Saturn has what Venus needs. And Venus has good qualities and things that she can bring forward, like all of the things that we just mentioned in the sign of Virgo. However, it's not as flowy, it's not as coming together as Venus likes. You think of the sign of Pisces where all of the things come in. You think about the sign of Taurus where we have the middle of spring where things are growing, things are proliferating. You think of the sign of Libra where we want things balanced, we want things fair, we want them just. We want them to be level. We want to consider all of the things. We want to bring all of the things in, right? Like in the sign of Taurus, I think of like all of the flowers that are blooming, right? All of the greenery and the animals that are going. Virgo is much more about separating and compartmentalizing, where Venus is about unifying. So the struggle here, or the difficulty or the obstacle, could be how do we release things in a Venusian way that can bring some sort of resolve and, you know, have some sort of preparation or some sort of compartmentalization or some sort of separation. I think about Mercury and I think about separating not in the Mars type way, but separating as far as like visually putting out the different pieces and separating them in a way so that way you can see what all you have. So like think about like a kid dumping out a piggy bank and then like putting all the pennies together and putting them in stacks of $1 and the quarters and all, you know, the dollar bills or whatnot, and like organizing it in little bits. You're separating it, but you're separating it so that way you can evaluate it and you can see what you have there and you can go forward with that. So how can we find this resolve in this separation and maybe this preparedness in this necessary service, but how can we do it in a Venusian type way, right? It can be a little bit of a struggle and a little bit of a back and forth, I think, for some of us. But this eclipse cycle has been something, or appears that it's going to be something. Eclipses have a lot more longevity than just a lunar cycle. We talked about that in last week's video as well. But this lunar cycle or this eclipse cycle is proving to be serious, focused for a lot of people, and maybe looking at ways to do things a little bit different in some sort of way, looking at the way we serve others, looking at the way we serve ourselves from a physical and an emotional standpoint. Those are hard things to look at, right? So Venus being within its fall, coming into the South Node here, just shortly after the eclipse, is telling me that there is some resolve there. There's Venus there, and she can serve, right? There's very much that she can do here in this feminine sign of Virgo, but she might have to look a little deeper for the tools and the resources that she needs to be able to get done what she needs to get done here. Coming right on the heels of the Mercury-Jupiter square, I feel like that just kind of speaks to a little bit of tension coming through here in the middle of the week. Maybe it can be a little bit of an inflection point of like, you know, I need to figure out how to balance this. I really need to figure out what I need to let go of in order to find balance, to find harmony. Like, what is it that is holding me back? And if you know what it is, then maybe we need to release that thing in a very straightforward type way that's going to allow us to move forward to whatever comes next, right? And that's different for all of us. So really interesting aspects that we have here coming through in the middle of the week here. And then the last couple days of the week, we're just following the, we're really just following the moon around here. So if we go ahead and come forward into Friday, October 3rd, moon in the sign of Aquarius before it moves into the sign of Pisces. We don't even have any lunar aspects here this day. Major lunar aspects. I look at the major aspects here on this channel. I've mentioned that before. So looking at the conjunctions, the squares, and the oppositions, and the sextiles and the trines as well. Not necessarily some of the other minor aspects that are out there. There's quite a few of them. So just throwing that out there. And then Saturday, October 4th, that Pisces moon takes us right through the whole day. It's going to square Uranus. And you know, that thinking about the moon squaring Uranus here brings me back to the Venus aspect that we have this week, because now that I think about it, Venus was square Uranus right around just before the eclipse. So there's this tension to do something a little different that Venus has going on here, right? Saturn being in Venus's exaltation speaks a little bit more to that Saturn-Venus dynamic going on here, right? Yeah, so interesting things that we have. What is it that is coming up for you to let go of? What is completing its cycle and creating something new, space for something new within the same moment? We talked about that during the eclipse, right? It was a solar eclipse, so it was a new moon. It was at 29 degrees of Virgo. So there's something beginning while there was something ending. It was opposite Saturn, the planet of death and decay, the planet of letting go and releasing, the planet of the hard nose. So if it feels like there's a lot, that's because it is a lot, right? Yeah, so that's what we have for this week. I hope everybody has a wonderful week. I hope that you are able to move forward and release whatever it is that you need to let go of to step forward into the new things, because I think we all have new things that are waiting for us at any period of time, right? So yeah, thank you for sticking with me through this video. This video comes out on Saturday, so Sunday, live meditation. I look forward to seeing you there, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, live streamed right here to YouTube. And I will see you back here next week for our next weekly video. I hope everybody has a wonderful week. Take care, and I'll see you next time.